Alright guys, Tactical here, back again today, and on yesterday's video I saw this comment from SnakeEye01. You should do a series about up-and-coming CoD players that will dominate the game when they get to the playing age. Can't find any YouTube channels that talk about these things. And okay, maybe this is something they'll do more down the line, but I did have a kind of variation on this idea that I thought I'd discuss today, because there was a roster change that came out yesterday, which I wasn't able to cover in the Rostermania roundup video. Actually, a very surprising change. I don't think a lot of people saw it, so we'll cover that. And then that kind of leads relatively nicely into this trend of younger players coming of age and playing for very top teams. And I think, this trend has really started with Dashy, coming to the forefront, being so good on OpTic. And now you're seeing these guys that have been well known in the online scene getting quick chances right at the top, because the teams don't want to lose out the opportunity of getting a potential Dashy level talent, when they are finally allowed to compete on LAN and at the CWL. So we'll talk on that a little bit more down the line. Maybe this series idea will be something more down the future. I'm not incredibly in tune with underage talent. Mainly I just follow the pro scene. And I'm pretty in tune with the amateur scene in the UK and maybe Europe to some extent. But even if you ask me can you name a couple of players that are under 18 in Europe that are going to be really good when they come of age, it'd be difficult to say. North America, it's not so hard. You've got guys like Simp, guys like Illey that we'll talk about in the rest of this video. But I'm sure you guys will have some interesting players and some interesting ideas you want to mention in the comment section below. Players that you think are going to be standout when they come of age. And yeah, so I'm sure the comment section will be interesting if you have some special picks. So anyway, we're going to go on to this roster move first of all. Mind Freak, baby. I talked yesterday how Swifty came into the squad, very much rumoured that it would just be Buzzo stepping aside from the team, becoming a coach. And okay, that has happened, I was partly right. So first and foremost, Buzzo will be leaving the team to go into a coaching role. So off the active lineup, some people would say this is a long time coming, but Buzzo has been a fantastic player for the APAC region, probably a top 5 player of all time when you consider his achievements, how long he's been around, come top 6 at Champs and Advanced Warfare, won ridiculous amount of local lands. And yeah, definitely a legendary player. He's going to be moving into a coaching role. This is the interesting change, the one that I certainly didn't see coming. Excite leaving the team, replaced by Beeston. Now, I hadn't heard of this guy, but supposedly he wasn't their first choice. And by the things that the players are saying on Twitter, it's pretty obvious he wasn't their first choice. And it's very interesting. And Den's replies, thought I'd never see the day, because Beeston is definitely a contentious character. So we'll go through that in just a second. But you can see here in Mind Freak's achievements, back in Infinite Warfare, Excite came into the team, and then he was, Dens went over to Tainted Minds, I think, to see if he could carry those guys to a win, and he, nearly got the better of Mind Freak on occasion. And then, yeah, so Excite ended up leaving the team for Dens. The reason that Fighter Sights is, to put it in perspective, the roster change regarding Excite wasn't an in-game skill thing. He simply isn't a good fit for the team, as the whole team didn't get along with him and it was affecting our practice and team. Could go on more, we wish him the best going forwards. Someone also replied to this saying, isn't that the same reasoning you gave in Infinite Warfare? And it may well have been. And then you see this reply, why Beeston, why not Damage, for example, a player on Tainted Minds? Tainted Minds all have unreasonable buyouts, unfortunately. I find it funny he says unfortunately. It's almost like, I wish we didn't have this Beeston guy, and we could have one of the Tainted Minds guys. And there's also a guy called Pred, who supposedly was going to be the replacement for Excite if they couldn't, if getting rid of Excite, he was going to be the replacement. But for some sort of family reasons, he can't travel abroad, so they had to get Beeston instead. And as I said, he's definitely a contentious character, supposedly being involved in scamming situations in the past. And it definitely seems from what Fighters saying, they didn't even really want him on the team anyway. So it doesn't really bode well for Mind Freak and Tainted Minds, I guess, going into the upcoming event. It doesn't seem like Excite is going to be able to get on Tainted Minds either. They, Zeppa came onto that team for Swifty going over to Mind Freak. So yeah, the APAC region is in a muddle since Dens has left, and I honestly think they'll do well to qualify for the Pro League at this point. Stage 2 of the World War II Pro League, we had Mind Freak and Tainted Minds there. Maybe one team will make it, but it's not looking so optimistic right now. Who knows, maybe Buzzo the coach will be an absolute godsend for them. But yeah, that's the change that I didn't get to cover yesterday. Let's go on to actually the main topic of this video, because it kind of leads nicely. The fact that this Luca guy, recently 18, has come into this Mind Freak team. And this is something we've seen a lot of lately, really starting off with Dashy. So these are the Pro League qualifier teams. One thing to mention, of course, is Cellium coming into FaZe Clan. He recently turned 18. You can see his birthday, December 24th, 2000. So he just turned 18. And as soon as he did, FaZe decided to pick him straight up, and yeah, he's going to be competing at this Pro League play-in, and seems to be doing pretty well online, known as like an onliner, and, you know, basically, as soon as you're so good online that people start calling you a keyboarder, which has happened to him and happened to other players in the past, that's when you know you've made it, basically. And yeah, I think this trend, as I said at the start of the video, has really been started by Dashy. So, of course, we see what Dashy has done. He's 19 now, so he's been around, you know, he's been around for a fair little bit. First competed at Infinite Warfare Champs, and then had the entirety of the World War II season to develop and flourish as a player. So yeah, Infinite Warfare Champs here, I may have said World War II, but yeah. So he played on Straight Rippin' with Study, Ricky, and Temp. Then the World War II season, an interesting one for him on Enigma 6, then on Complexity. Then he gets his shot on OpTic Gaming, and of course, they win CWL Las Vegas. He was MVP of the event, and I think a lot of teams are saying, okay, you used to have to really prove yourself if you were an onliner. People, you know, didn't used to consider it that highly, and you'd have to really work your way up through the pro circles, play on a lower tier team, get spotted at a LAN, something like that. But people are seeing that this guy Dashy, who almost had been overshadowed by Illey, I thought, during that online season of like the Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare. I'd heard of Illey as a much bigger name than Dashy, but we'll go on to him in just a second. And yeah, usually you had to prove yourself, you had to work yourself up through many LANs, doing, you know, pretty well on lower tier teams as a standout player. And that's basically exactly what Dashy did last year. And some people, you know, didn't give him that much credit, saying that Sensor was baiting for him or whatever. It doesn't seem to be that much of an issue when he's still dropping 1.3s on LAN, when he's on OpTic Gaming with all that talent around him. It used to be the case that you really had to prove yourself, but I think a lot of people, Dashy is setting the trend here. He's an absolute superstar that was an online player, and okay, yes, he's proved himself on LAN, but people are looking at him just thinking, wow, he's come out of nowhere and is arguably the best player in the game. How can we let another potential Dashy slip through our fingers? And that's, I think, what's happened with Cellium onto FaZe. You know, Nameless and Clayster were having an exchange about back in the day, you know, you really had to prove yourself and work your way up, whereas Cellium just hops right in to a potential championship contending team. Of course, that FaZe Clan Core 4 won Stage 1 playoffs last year. Also have some other names to mention. So these guys are going to be ones that are going to be coming into the forefront in the next couple of months. The biggest name maybe is Simp among them. Like this guy, watching him on Black Ops 3 was something else. Watching him play like S&D tournaments and stuff. His M8 shot was like the best I'd seen apart from like Formal or, you know, some guy like that. And yeah, he's 17, turning 18 in just a month's time. So he will be able to play CWL Fort Worth, I believe. And yeah, so he's definitely a guy to watch out for. He's been around the block plenty and played his fair share of tournaments. He won like all his local tournaments. I think like all the local ones to him. He's always destroyed those. Like he's been able to go to those LANs, but of course hasn't been able to compete in the CWL. So he'll be an interesting one. Illey, of course, is another big name. He is 18 on October the 20th this year. So a fair bit away, but he should be just around the right time to play Modern Warfare 4, Ghosts 2, whatever the game's going to be from Infinity Ward. He's going to be coming of age at that time. He's been around forever. Like, he had the best movement I've ever seen on Black Ops 3. Like, that clip, it was the end of yesterday's video, like on the Redwood one, like, I mean, my movement wasn't great back in the day, a little bit better nowadays, but Illey is something else. Like, watching this guy is just incredible. He plays those jetpack games. He's just a level above. And yeah, so I can't wait to see him compete on LAN. We also have this Shotzzy guy who has like won the Halo World Championship or whatever on Splice. He's been playing, you know, the Splice Halo team that tried to play Call of Duty. I think that went to shit really quickly, but they do have this Shotzzy guy that has been playing wages and stuff with the likes of Illey and, you know, those sort of players, Simp, Cellium, been around those sort of guys, and he seems to be performing really well, and he's 18, I believe, in like June or something like that. So he has a decent chance of, okay, he probably won't be able to compete at Champs or anything, but maybe with Illey, if he wants to compete in Call of Duty still and not necessarily go back to Halo, then he'll have a chance next season as well. So Shotzzy, Illey, Simp are really the names to look out for over this year. Also wanted to give a little bit of love to European guys, because we see a similar kind of thing, where in Europe, some of these lower tier players, like lower tier pros, tier 2, stuff like that, they like to give chances to these online stars, I guess. So this is Dylan, and maybe we'll start with Alex, it might be a little bit better. He only really started playing, okay, Advanced Warfare Black Ops 3, played a couple of LANs, then he gets picked up by Quicker. Like, Quicker is the guy that loves to develop these young talents, and he's having great success now with Dylan, and yeah, so he's the guy that sees Alex is pretty damn good, picks him up here, plays them a little bit, they end up going on to, okay, Quicker wasn't on the team here, but he goes on to Infuse, places top 12 at Infinite Warfare Champs, then he works his way through World War II, gets onto GTA Purple with Marky B. He's also been a player that tends to guide and mould these younger guys in Europe. Then, of course, he gets onto Unilad, does fantastically well on that team, 4th in Anaheim, 6th at Stage 2, and now he's got a very good chance of qualifying for Pro League under this Lightning Pandas roster. Similar situation with Dylan. Look at this. He basically comes out of nowhere, plays a few lands with this team, and then guess who's picking him up but Quicker. So this situation, I don't know if maybe these, and of course, yeah, now he's on this Team Swing team still with Quicker. And yeah, I'm not sure whether teams are looking at this Dashy situation and saying, okay, Dylan's been destroying us online. He's got to just be an online kid. I do think that the online situation in Europe is definitely a questionable one. Online really doesn't seem to mean that much in Europe. You look at the 2Ks, the results are crazy random, like all the time. And it's not the same case in America. So maybe European players have more of a reason to say, okay, like let's hold on a second. This guy might actually not be that something that special. But when I asked Zed, like, who was the next Alex, because Alex was really maybe the breakout player of Europe in the World War II season, when I said who was the next Alex, he said Dylan. So maybe I need to ask him who's the next Dylan if I want to find out who's the next down the playing order, because there's been some guys here that, you know, I think are pretty good, like underrated. Maybe that guy called Chain, who was on Vitality at World War II Champs, and you know, did really well with that Tommy team, came top 12, I think, beat Echo Fox to make it out the pools. That guy's a guy that people should be aware of, I think, more than they currently are. But again, he's not under 18. I don't really know too many players that are under 18 that have a lot of potential in the European region. But I've gone through some of them for the North American region today. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below what you think. If there's any other talents, I'm sure there is, that you think I missed. Maybe they're under 18. Maybe they've just gone 18 and you think they have a great shot coming up over either the next few months or maybe into Modern Warfare 4 or something like that. But yeah, definitely Dashy seems to have set the precedent for guys like Cellium and probably Simp to just hop onto a top team straight away. I really wouldn't be surprised if, like, 100 Thieves, they make the Pro League, but they're struggling a little bit. It comes to early February, Simp turns, like, 18, and they're like, okay, Octane or Kenny or whatever, like, it's time to go, we're getting Simp in, especially if Cellium has immediate success on FaZe, which I don't think people would consider ridiculously unlikely, considering the talent these guys haven't shown. When you're like 14, 15 and you're winning online tournaments, you have another 4 years to develop and, you know, get as good as possible before you actually come to LAN. Like, these guys are monsters, and yeah, I can't wait to see what they can do. Hopefully mix things up at the top of the professional scene and have a few new faces going around the place. So yeah, like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.
Do not fail us.